What's up guys, welcome back to Real Talk, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the 5 things I hate about my BMW M2 competition. Now if you are new to the channel, my name's Christian, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and for those watching, just make sure you smash the like button as well, okay? I've had the car 6-7 months, I've done about 10,000 miles in it personally. I've really had to nitpick to find these things, and I really struggled to find 5, but here they are. Before we jump into the video, quick disclaimer, my car is absolutely filthy, so let's not comment too much on that. I like having a dirty car, especially during the winter. Gives me more of a challenge to clean it. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Okay, so we're in the car and let's get this video underway. So I'm on a very nice road here. I've gone for a nice drive this morning. I think I'm on the cat and fiddle now, but it is ruined by a 50 mile an hour average speed check. So yes, I'm not going to be driving ecstatically in this video. As I said in the intro, I'm going to be talking about the 5 things I hate about the BMW M2 competition. Now what I will say is these things, it's very hard to find 5, okay, because I think this car is absolutely superb. I have found 5. Some of them may seem very petty, but these are the only things that I could find on the car. So if you've got an M2 and M2 competition, please comment below what things just really annoy you, what things grate on you, because it would be very interesting to compare the two. Let's start off first of all. I've owned the car 6 months now. Oh, that's a big slide, easy. It's hard to do both hands when you're driving. And I've done 10,000 miles, so I've spent a lot of time in the car, and I've learned some of the things which just don't look good, some of the things that are just a little bit inconvenient. So we'll start with the first one, which in my opinion is the biggest, and I'm sure anyone who's got an M2 competition or anyone who's looking to buy an M2 or an M2 competition, this is a big deciding factor. And it's just not the best in the world, and that is, you probably guessed it, is the exhaust, the way it sounds. It does sound, there's no two ways about it. Some areas it sounds okay, and that's as far as I would go, but the rest of it, when you compare it to a normal M2, it is really bad. It sounds awful. It sounds nothing like it. It sounds like it's just sucking in majority of the time, like that's literally all it sounds like. It sounds like it's just sucking in air and blowing out air. No dirty minds on here. And it just doesn't sound the best. It's very quiet. It sounds very raspy, especially when you first start it up. And when you compare it to an M2, a normal OG M2, very different. The M2 absolutely trumps it. So for those who have got an M2 competition, you'd probably agree with me here. It's probably one of the worst things about this car. And for those who are looking to get an M2 or deciding whether to get an OG M2 or an M2 competition, I know that that's a big deciding factor for you. It's a shame because I do miss the sound of mine, and you have to spend a lot of money to get this sounding good. And if you want to do it, like, you know, replacing the back box, it costs a lot of money. We're talking 4 figures here, and by that time, if you're spending that much, you might as well just get an exhaust system. And that's the only real way that you can get it to sound better. I know PCW do mods to the back end exhaust, which do make it sound a lot better. Make it sound very loud. In fact, one of my friends has had a, I think it's like a stage 3 mod with PCW, and it just sounds ridiculous. But it just would have been nice out of factory if this car sounded good, because you do automatically compare it to an OG M2, especially a lot of people have made the move from an M2 to an M2 competition. So that's the first thing. That's the thing that probably grates on me the most. The second thing, which falls hand in hand with what we've just discussed, is again the exhaust, but the way that it looks. Just look at that back box. It looks awful. You just think, what were BMW thinking? As everyone says, it looks like a cow udder, especially mine, because mine was painted black, and if you don't maintain that, the black starts to rub off with the crappy UK salty roads. So right now I've got patches of black and patches of just silver white. So it does actually look like a cow, just chilling. And it's so big and it just hangs there. And it just looks awful. It looks crap. And then when people take them off, you see how much room there is. They could have shoved it up a bit more, but then when you open it up, it's just loads of chicken wire. It just looks like it's just been beached there. And I think that could have been improved. And again, the only way that you can really improve that is getting a new back box. That is the only way that you can improve it, is getting a new back box. And by the time you get a back box again, you might as well just get a full exhaust system, or at least a little bit more than just the back box. But they're still very expensive. So your only other alternative is to paint it like I've done, but you have to maintain it, and it just becomes a little bit inconvenient. So I think those are probably the biggest two. And I'm sure you guys are probably in agreement with that. Whoever's looking to get one, whoever's got one, I'm sure you'd agree with that. The third thing, which I could be getting this really wrong here, but it's when you're changing from mode to mode. So when you want to put the car into, say, sports or comfort, it seems like the car's default when you start this up. I've got there's loads of declines and inclines here. It's making me feel really dizzy. Woo! If I've been it, sorry. I thought I was a good driver. The car's default setting is putting the steering into sport and the rest of the car in comfort. Now for me, regardless of what mode I'm in, whether I'm going for a hoon or driving nicely or relaxed or just a cruise, I always have the steering in comfort. I think Sport Plus feels a little bit too heavy, a little bit too artificial, doesn't really give you a nice feel to the car. So I always have it in comfort. So what just annoys me is, let's just say I start the car up, it's automatically in sport. So if I want to then change, I have to play around with the buttons. I know it's a tiny little thing, and again, I said these things are very petty, but it's just inconvenient always having to do that. So then when I set it back to that mode and I'm driving along, I'm in everything comfort now because I've changed the steering manually. I've got my M1 and M2 buttons. So my M1 button, that basically puts the car into its sportiest setting, if you like, MDM mode. So it just allows a bit of slip with the traction. I normally use that when it's raining or when it's wet or winter weather, really, mainly, to be fair. Steering in comfort and the rest of the car, so throttle response in the highest, and as I said, MDM mode, manual. So then when I change it back, so if I put, we all know, so you press the button and it'll put it into that mode. Then if you press it again, it will take it out of that mode. So when you take it out of that mode, it doesn't revert back to the previous one that you had it in. So bear in mind, I changed it from sports to comfort in regards to steering. So I'm driving along, I want to have a bit of a hoon, quickly press the button, go for my blitz, want to chill now, press it again, it will just revert back to the normal setting when you start the car up. So the steering again in sport. And my M2 button is the exact same settings, but I have it with DSC off. That's normally what I'd use for the summer. So it's just, I know it's a tiny thing, but it's just the constant having to change it. Is there any way that you can change it to just be like that permanently as soon as you start the car? I don't know, maybe I'm just being stupid, but if you do know, please let me know, because it just grates on me. The fourth thing, again, very petty, is the electric seats. Now I love the way the chairs look, and the electric seats, it's a nice function to have in regards to memory function. But what is really annoying is I'm 6 foot, so I sit with my chair pretty much all the way back at its lowest setting. And I'm quite a social guy, and for some reason I always get nominated when I go out to be the driver, so I tend to carry passengers in the back seats. Now before we say, when my missus is sitting in the car, she's very stubborn, she makes me get out to let people in the back. Now if I don't move the chair, it's almost impossible to get people in the back, full-grown adults that is. And if you can get in, there's no two ways about it, your feet will scuff up the back of the chairs, and then you have to clean them, or it's just scuffed, and I don't like that. So you have to move them electrically back. And it just takes a day, doesn't it? It just takes so long. So just, you know, obviously you've got the buttons on the back of the seats. So you fold it over, no one can fit in, apart from a child. Adults, no way. Crippled, I really struggle to. But so you have to move the seat forward. And you just sit there, standing outside in the freezing cold, holding the button. And then it's fine enough room. And then you can sit down and just hold one button whilst you're sitting in your zone to put it back. Just takes a day. It'd be nice if you could just, you know, just slide it quite easily. But I don't know if that works with having the electric seats or not. But that's the fourth thing that just grates me. And I'm sure you guys could probably agree with that. It is annoying, it's just inconvenient. The fifth thing, which is, it's a tiny little thing, and I get the reasons behind it, the ride height. I just think it looks, cosmetically, from a visual standpoint, just looks a little bit too high. And my previous car had coilovers on, and I thought that sat really nicely, maybe a little bit too low at the best of times. But when my dad first got his M2 comp, I thought it was still on. You know when you get a new car and the suspension has those blocks on it, I forgot what they're called now. I thought it was still on that. It looks like it's on stilts. And when you just look at it from afar and you notice it for the first time, you'll never not notice it again. I think that's with any kind of car, but as soon as you notice something, like if you notice a little mark, you'll never ever not see it again. I just think the ride height looks a little bit too high. I get why it's set up how it is, because they are incredible. On roads, on track, blitzing, they're just, in every way, it's great. So I understand that, but I just think they could have done with having it slightly lower. From a visual kind of standpoint. But as I've said, guys, I've nitpicked here. They're tiny little things, but they're things that do just great. And it was really hard to find those 5 things. The rest of the car is brilliant, and I'm not being funny. The whole car, if those are the only 5 things that I can find, then BMW haven't done a bad job, have they? At all. So I think that kind of concludes the video. So just to recap, first one, the exhaust sound. Sure, we're all in agreement there. Second one is the size of the back box, the horrendous cow udder. That's the second. Third is just the changing from mode to mode, just being a little bit fiddly, and if you just want to have the car in comfort all the time, you have to constantly change it. I know you can set the buttons to comfort on M1, but I don't like that. I like to have the 2 as my sporty kind of buttons. That's me. Fourth one is the inconvenience with the electric seats. Tiny things. And the final one is the ride height. I know you can change that very easily, which I'm planning to do in this, and that'll be a separate video. So let me know in the comments what you don't like about your M2 competition or M2.
So there you have it. Those are the 5 things that I hate. I wouldn't really go as far as say hate, I suppose just dislike, and as I've said, I kind of nitpicked with those. But let me know in the comments what grates you about your M2 competitions or your M2s. It'll be interesting to see and compare the two. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.